Hello everyone, my name is Lynette Salasad and this is my Luke Acts presentation video on the findings and key points of my research paper 1 and a brief preliminary synopsis of research paper 2. So I'll begin with research paper 1 where I chose to do a narrative criticism of Acts 18 through 28 and Acts 19, 1 through 10. So starting there, I did want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed using a narrative critical lens to look at this particular passage, and I will say that it's one of my favorite methodologies to use to interpret scripture. And I put a quote in here from Rezaguet, who said, "To discover the artistry of the New Testament narrative was like discovering a whole new world." So previously, this methodology was not popular until recently, and I think it's a very important and very necessary way to look at scripture because it discusses not only the what of a text, the content, but it also discusses the how of a text, its rhetoric, structure, context, all of those things. They're analyzed as an organic whole, and I believe it allows and provides the opportunity to study pericopes on their own terms. It's very text-centered. It focuses only on the scripture itself, but it still demands knowledge of social and historical circumstances assumed by the narrator. And of course, this is to be used as a supplementary methodology. However, I feel that this narrative criticism is definitely worth its weight. So in the pages of Luke and Acts, one will discover that he has written a carefully crafted masterpiece detailing the life and mission of Jesus and the church. So moving forward, according to B.H. Streeter, it is Luke's ability to enliven bare facts that has marked him as a consummate literary artist. Robert Tannehill describes Luke as an author of literary skill and rich imagination. So Luke's literary prowess is revealing of his secular scholarship as a learned and distinguished writer of Greek and scripture. Furthermore, it's in this narrative that captivates the imaginations of many through a glimpse into the life of the birth of Jesus in the church. The passage that I chose for my paper was to analyze Acts 18 through 28, and 19, 1 through 10. And my thesis was to demonstrate its correlation with the Lucan theme of the gospel to the Gentiles. Tannehill writes that the narrator of Luke Acts made clear ever since the birth of the narrative that the purpose of God shaping his story is an intention to work salvation out for all peoples. So using a narrative critical lens, I investigated the elements of rhetoric, setting, characterization, point of view, plot, and reader to express Luke's intentionality and purpose throughout the narrative. So in this particular passage, we see Paul's missionary journey into Ephesus and the companions that he met along the way. So key points for rhetoric. This particular passage is very fast-paced and engaging. There are various repeated words and phrases of Paul reasoning in the synagogue and persuading, trying to persuade others to the truth. And the pericope also ends with Paul continuing to reason and persuade people in both the synagogue and outside of it. And the result is that all who dwelt in Asia heard the word of the Lord, both Jews and Greeks. So these are just some of the key points, some of the key phrases that were found within this scripture. We find Paul in the synagogue and trying to reason and persuade the Jews, and then their rejection of the message led him outside the synagogue and towards Gentiles. And a couple of different motifs within this passage, and the first one and the main one that I'm going to make mention of is Paul's strengthening of the disciples, which is found both at the beginning and the end of the passage. It's evident that Paul's work includes not only conversion of new disciples, but the later strengthening of those disciples. And in the passage in Acts 18, verse 22, it says, "When he had landed at Caesarea, he went up and greeted the church and went down to Antioch. After spending time there, he departed and went from one place to the next through the region of Galatia, strengthening all the disciples." So here you see Paul on the move. He's going from one place to the next in places where there are already established churches, strengthening and discipling those that are there already. The structure of this passage is unique because Luke uses a mixture of short episodes and summaries, and then he'll stop and do this vivid scenic passage to relate to his audience what seems to be unrelated stories found within these within the missionary movement of Paul. You'll find some vivid passages, and Schnabel asserts that this type of episode is to be referred to as a historical narrative with travel notices. So that's a type of structure that we find here in Acts 18 and 19. As far as setting is concerned, the scene in Acts 18 opens with Paul in Corinth, which at the time was a Roman colony founded by Julius Caesar. It eventually became the capital of the Roman province of Achaia, and it's this geographical location that contributed to the city's great wealth. Then you'll find the narrative quickly shifts its emphasis to Ephesus. And after Paul says his farewell to the Corinthian church, the remaining accounts in this passage deal with events that happen in Ephesus. And as far as Ephesus is concerned, this was the second largest city of the East, and it's understood why Paul would consider Ephesus a strategic mission target in terms of population centers and the effect on the thought of Eastern Empire. According to Tannehill, Ephesus is not just another stop in a series. It is Paul's last major place of new mission work. Indeed, it is the sole center of mission noted in the last stage of Paul's work as a free man. Also, in regards to setting, you'll find Luke intentionally placing Paul in the synagogue, both at the beginning and the end of the narrative, symbolizing his deep desire and focus to persuade the Jews that Jesus was the Messiah. However, the same cycle continues. You'll see continual rejection and persecution of the gospel by the Jews that contributed to Paul's outward Gentile focus. So it's been noted, and this is a theme that's found very much in Luke and Acts, that the geographical movement is demonstrated as being away from Jerusalem. Also significant to the setting of this particular passage is Apollos and the city that he's from. Luke makes mention that he's from Alexandria, and Alexandria is the second largest city in the Roman Empire, and it was one of the leading intellectual and cultural centers of the Hellenistic world. So here that is very telling of the type of man that Apollos is and what Luke wanted to portray about him, because he also used the description that he was an eloquent man, mighty in the scriptures, and well-rounded individual from this city known as Alexandria. As far as characterization is concerned, the depiction of Paul by Luke in Acts, it sparked some intrigue because here you'll see Luke emphasizing Paul's personal law-keeping practice more than Paul does in his letters. So here you'll see a rather Jewish Paul compared to the Paul in his own letters where he's very radical, denounces Jewish Christian methods and all of that. But here it seems to conflict. So it could be indicative of a character development within Paul, who from originally had an initial Judean focus, and his character developed, based on circumstances, to a more Gentile focus. And we'll also see the other main character, Apollos, and the ministry of Priscilla and Aquila. You'll see his description of Apollos as indicative of his significance in the mission of the church. As an insightful preacher from Alexandria, he's well versed in scripture, and he's also described as being fervent in spirit. And so all of these character aspects of Apollos just shows the preparation for the ministry that he has in the future. As far as point of view, from the perspective of the author, the ideological point of view of the narrative includes Paul's third missionary journey as turning away from the Jews and turning towards the Gentiles in the areas of Asia Minor. Within the passage, you find Luke emphasizing reasoning and persuasion among the Jews in the synagogue, yet their rejection drives Luke to focus on a more individualistic or small group conversions that prove to be significant. So, moving away from the synagogue missionary work, you'll find Paul focusing in on the ministry of Priscilla and Aquila and their role in the ministry of Apollos. And then later in Acts 19, you'll find the focus that Paul has with the 12 disciples that he encounters of John. So you'll see, in relation to the overall point of view, Paul was well aware and confident in his mission to present the gospel to the Jew first and also to the Gentile, despite the opposition, and he seems to be relatively unfazed by it, at least in this passage. So, as far as plot is concerned, this passage more closely resembles a recognition plot, and Luke first sets up the reader with a summary of Paul's missionary travels, and then the following anecdotes are longer, detailed passages of related events in Ephesus. So here we'll have several conflicts that arise, such as incomplete knowledge of both Apollos and the disciples of Acts 19. And then they are resolved with the explanation of Scripture, and more accurately, first by Priscilla and Aquila, and then by Paul. The opposition, as I mentioned before, that Paul received seemed to do little to affect Paul's morale. Instead, you'll see that Paul relocates. He quickly dusts off his feet, his sandals, and just moves on to the school of Tyrannus. And this resulted in Luke's claim that all who dwelt in Asia heard the word of the Lord, both the Jews and the Greeks. And in conjunction with the overall theme of Luke, the plot of the narrative reflects a fearless, unfazed Paul constantly on the move. As far as the reader is concerned, the narrative is set up at first as a rapid summary, and it makes the reader feel like the rest of the passage will be at a similar pace. However, Luke inserts the ministry of Apollos in there, and this story allows the reader to slow down and to critically analyze the character's importance. Although Paul is at first determined to forsake the preaching of the Jews due to their consistent rejection, the reader becomes pleasantly surprised by the successful conversion and enlightenment of Apollos and the Jew and the disciples of John the Baptist. As far as my research paper 2 is concerned, I will be exploring Luke's use of the Old Testament in Luke 1:39 through 56. So in this passage, we have Mary visiting Elizabeth with the news of their pregnancies and them meeting for the first time after hearing this news. And the rest of the passage is inclusive of Mary's Song of Praise, or also known as the Magnificat. So using Richard Hays's Echo Matrix, I will explore Mary's Song of Praise and the Old Testament connection it has to the prayer of Hannah, which is found in 1 Samuel chapter 2. Both of these passages and songs have striking resemblances, and I will be analyzing the two and finding the commonalities. In conclusion, as far as my first paper is concerned, studying the elements of narrative, the reader discovers insights that are not initially obvious. As I said before, I really enjoyed using this narrative critical lens because you will find many different connections, the repetition of words and phrases. You'll understand Luke's emphasis on certain things, and it highlights Paul's evangelistic efforts and his motives and reasoning behind what he did. So the narrative analysis of this particular passage that I did write on proved to be consistent with the overall theme and the mission of the church to bring the gospel to both the Jews and the Gentiles. So, as we all understand, the masterful composition of Luke demands more than just a casual reading, and it's only through narrative analysis that you find the author's implied intent and insight that otherwise would not be noted. So I'm looking forward to exploring Luke's use of the Old Testament in his gospel because I believe it'll prove to be just as insightful and rewarding. Thank you so much for your time. This is my bibliography, and I look forward to hearing from the rest of you. Thanks.